True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. As you guys can probably tell, hopefully, I got a new microphone. The last episode last week, my microphone was broken, and as I said, I don't have just backup microphones. I mean, maybe as our podcast grows, maybe I'll get a backup microphone, but there's really no need to have two microphones. They're kind of expensive. So thank you all for bearing with. We got a lot of nice supportive comments about it, which I really appreciate because I do get a lot of anxiety if I feel like the podcast isn't up to the level we want it to be. But I couldn't do anything about it. It's either that or there was no episode. So I'd rather put out the episode if it was audible, which it was. So
I know we've spoken a bit in the past about how we were nervous about the Spotify comments, but 95% of them are so nice. There's always going to be people who don't like us, and that's fine. But 95% of them this week have been so kind and nice. I always get a little bit nervous when it says there's one to read, but they've all, even there was just another one. I love this podcast. Thank you. So everyone's been very lovely and kind.
Yeah, we really appreciate that because it's scary having a podcast and putting yourself out to the world to be criticized and judged.
Definitely.
It's not fun. Wait, I didn't say the date. It is November 7th, 2024. I have to say a weather update too. I feel like it's been a while. The weather is warmer than it should be for November. It was just 80 degrees the other day and broke a record. So that's where we're at here. Also getting dark at 4 p.m. thanks to daylight savings. Do you want to say your weather?
Oh yeah, so the weather here is lovely. Where November here is quite a warm month. Generally, it can get quite humid and stormy, but today is beautiful, sunny. I've got my washing in the washing machine. I'm going to hang it out after so it can all dry on the line. I just love line dried sheets and clothes. I just feel like it all smells so fresh and crisp and nice. But yeah, beautiful weather. It's definitely getting warmer. It's been probably 90-ish 2 days this week. So yeah, definitely nearly at summer.
Yeah, it's nice. Peep, she's currently sleeping by my feet, but I've been saying I've just been so busy and everything's been such a chaotic cluster in life. So I was feeling bad for Peep and Fresh Butt because it's hard for me to always play with them, and I try to play with them at least once a day at night and run them around a little so they don't go crazy. But on days when I'm recording and editing, I have so much I literally work basically until I go to bed. So my sister had this interactive cat toy for her cats that they really liked. The one she has is a little different than the one I got. So I bought one, and it has batteries, so it runs and I can just turn it on. And basically it's a little feather on a stick, and it's covered by not a blanket, but just covered by a little circular thing so that it only sticks out a little bit. And when you turn it on, it just goes in a circle or goes back and forth, the feather. So it just pokes out a little and they see it. Peep friggin' loves it, obsessed with it. She plays with it so much and goes crazy for it. She's jumping, she's flinging herself around, and all it does is the feather just goes in a circle. So if anybody wants recommendations of something to get your cats if you feel like they're bored, this would be great. I could post it if anyone cares. But I had to turn it off because she would play with it the whole time I was recording. If not, when I get home from work, she literally sits next to it and she starts meowing for me to turn it on. So
how cute.
Yeah, I'm glad that she has something to play with. I'm glad that she likes it. But she likes it too much where now Fresh Butt won't even go near her because she's such a crazy freak when she's playing with it. So now it's I need to find him something too. But I'm glad because I felt bad that if they were bored or they didn't get to run around. I'll have to upload some posts or videos of her being a crazy lunatic playing with it.
We had a digger, I don't know, excavator here this morning. We're digging it anyway. I'm not going to get into the logistics. We're digging a trench to put power in, and you should have seen the dogs. They lost their mind. They were like, "What is going on? This is the best day of our lives."
Were they out there, or they were just like, were they
Yeah,
out
they're
in the
out there.
dirt?
But then I think because the thing is too, because where we live, it's very quiet, so they don't like sound. So they investigated, and then it was way too noisy, so they ran away.
Oh. They're like, no thanks. It's been a big crime day, just briefly. This isn't like written out updates. This is just going off the top of my head. 3 people were arrested for Liam Payne. So maybe we can do like an update episode on that if more information comes out, kind of like we did with Matthew Perry. I guess it wouldn't be an update episode because we didn't do one since it wasn't a
Well, it
crime. So
wasn't a
maybe we
crime.
can do
Yeah.
an episode eventually.
Apparently, I haven't seen the names yet, but they said it was one of the people arrested was a hotel worker, and the other one is a friend of his. So I wonder. It says someone close to the singer, a hotel employee, and a suspected drug dealer.
Imagine someone close to the singer's another One Direction member,
I imagine.
which it's definitely not because I don't even think they all like get
I
along
think
that
the
much
only one
anymore.
it could be is Niall, because didn't he go and see him in South America or something? But I absolutely am not insinuating anything. I don't think it is. I think it's probably just someone who's close to him.
You take that
Um,
back before we get attacked by Directioners.
yeah, like I feel like that's the only one who was in the area at the time. But that was a very quick investigation, like probably 2 or 3 weeks since he's passed, and they've already arrested these 3 people. So
It seems like they knew that was something that happened very quickly because I feel like it came out within days that they were investigating hotel employees for suspecting that someone sold them drugs there. So I bet someone talked.
and I also, it sounds like they have some very clear CCTV. Like I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the actual terminology right in front of me, but basically they said they know when he went off the balcony that he was basically not fully conscious. So
Yeah. They said that too because he did nothing to like break his fall or protect his head or put his hands out. They could tell. Um, Another thing happening today, again, just going from memory, Bryan Kohberger, Moscow, had some type of hearing where the defense, his attorneys, they're saying that they're trying to get rid of the death penalty because their argument is
it's not
they don't
human.
know what. Well,
Sorry.
they're like, we don't know how he will receive the death penalty, and I guess the judge or whoever was like, oh, lethal injection, but then the defense is like, but there's a shortage, and they're saying that it's inhumane for Bryan Kohberger to be in jail up against potentially the death penalty, not knowing the way that the death penalty will happen. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's so like, even because we posted it on the grid and all the comments are like, well, no one, he didn't think about the humanity of slaughtering these 4 people.
Allegedly.
And like a lot of the comments are like, I think Ann Taylor's really in love with him, which is his attorney.
His
But
attorney's weird. I
yeah.
I don't know. I haven't followed it too closely yet, like all the technical stuff, but anything I do see, I'm like, why is she doing this? I was gonna say though, it's like we just assume that kind of, or like, yeah, he probably did it in our opinions. I should learn my lesson though from Delphi because early on I said the same thing about Richard Allen being like, yeah, I mean, he probably did it. Like they arrested him, they clearly got to him somehow. Which now I'm like, they had nothing against him. But with
Yeah.
Bryan Kohberger, way more stuff has already come out.
Already, we already know that there's
Yeah,
way more.
just from the like arrest affidavit and all that. Just from that, than the entire trial for Delphi, that with the prosecution and the state presenting their evidence. We already know so much more connecting Bryan Kohberger to the murders, so I do feel more confident in my belief that he did it. So that's why the whole death penalty thing is crazy.
An interesting comment. It says, last time I checked, it's unconstitutional to take the lives of 4 innocent people. And obviously innocent till proven guilty, but if he, does get found guilty, he took away sons and daughters and robbed them of their chance to live out the rest of their lives. So I really don't care about his anxiety and fear. He deserves to sit there and think about what he did. And this other comment too, even his own defense team knows he's going to be found guilty, which everyone's like that. They're like, is this normal for them to be fighting the death penalty before he's even been found
That's why I
guilty? Which
don't, yeah,
I
that's
feel
why
like
it's
it is,
weird.
because that can also influence the plea. Like, if I don't think it's going to come to a plea deal, but things like that, like they can say, well, this will happen if you take the death penalty off the table.
Yeah, I guess we just don't hear about it as much because it's like this is more of a high profile case that a lot of people know about, but also just a strange reasoning.
Yeah.
we'll see. That trial, it's April 2025,
No,
maybe?
August. August.
August.
I'm sure it's
Close.
August. Yeah. I'm just double
So
checking,
that
but I'm
seems like
sure.
it'll
Yeah.
never happen. Before we get into the episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor, Cornbread. As you guys know, it's been a super crazy time of year with everything going on, and it's very difficult for me to relax and not feel so burnt out, because even when I do get home and I'm supposed to be relaxing before bed and winding down, I'm just thinking of all the things I should be doing, could be doing, and that's not very relaxing. So I was really excited to try the Cornbread THC gummies. They have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, so it's just the right dose, and they don't use any harsh solvents like petrochemicals or industrial acids like a lot of hemp THC products do. Basically, it's a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment, which we can all use more of, carefree moments. They've been really helping me get to sleep, actually, instead of staying up all night worrying, or even just to relax so that I can actually feel like I'm getting some time to myself.
So, if you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created their first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal. As a special offer for True Crime Society listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/TCS and use promo code TCS at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/TCS and use code TCS for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour.
All right, so today we are going to be talking about a pretty well-known case, I would say, and it's the disappearance of Lauren Spierer. She went missing in 2011 when she was 20 years old. I feel like it's a case that's kind of always talked about. A lot of people know of it because it's been unsolved for so long. Kind of similar to like Brian Schaefer, or it was kind of reminds me of like Brittany Drexel in a way as well, but kind of the same level of cases that most people in the true crime community or society know about.
It is one that just seems like it shouldn't be unsolved for this amount of time. It does, and I know it's not the same, but it does kind of remind me of Brian Schaefer. Like out on a night out on the town at a bar, Brian was seen going into a bar. He was never seen coming out. Lauren was seen on CCTV as well. Like it just feels like it shouldn't be this hard to solve the case, but it's been 13 years. So one of those infamous ones, just for the lack of any evidence, really.
Yeah, it's interesting also because like her movement seemed pretty well tracked up
Yeah,
to a
traceable.
point.
Yeah.
As the search for Lauren Spierer enters its first full week, police have few leads, but volunteers continue to turn out and look for Lauren.
The area that we're going to be searching this afternoon is out around the Griffey Lake area.
Sparked by a tip, the area being looked at now is focused on southern Indiana lakes, and even though a recent dive search came up negative, volunteers press on.
Black spandex pants, tight pants, a white tank top, and a white long sleeve shirt that's probably going to be extra small or size 0 or smaller.
Through hot weather and rough terrain, no clues have been uncovered, but the parents of the 20-year-old Indiana University sophomore have announced a reward for any information leading to her safe return.
There is also a reward of $100,000 for information leading to the return of Lauren. I would stress again that any information you give and the contact that you have with the Bloomington police will be anonymous. There is no taping, no recording, anything like that.
Police have offered few details on the investigation, but dismissed reports that Spierer was involved in an altercation hours before she disappeared. Police are looking for any new video that may carry a clue and remain optimistic.
No, we're not losing hope. I mean, we're concentrating completely on this case and finding Lauren, and we certainly want to find her alive, and we hope that that's the case.
Lauren was last seen walking near her apartment in the early morning hours the night she vanished, and police do believe that foul play is involved.
We'll start with some background into Lauren. She was born on January 17th, 1991. Her parents are Charlene and Robert Spierer. She has a sister named Rebecca, and she grew up in Scarsdale, New York. Lauren attended Edgemont High School and graduated from there in 2009. She then went on to attend Indiana University, where she was studying textiles merchandising. She was active in the Jewish community at the university, and on one spring break, she traveled to Israel to plant trees on behalf of the Jewish National Fund. Lauren was dating a man named Jesse Wolf at the time she disappeared. She met Jesse and a lot of her circle of friends at summer camp, which was Camp Tawanda, when she was a teenager. In Bloomington, Lauren rented an apartment at the Smallwood Plaza Apartments. She had a female roommate named Hadar Tamir. Her mother, Charlene, has spoken about the feeling that the area was safe. She said, "I didn't have any qualms about saying goodbye." In September 2010, around 9 months before Lauren disappeared, she was arrested on charges of public intoxication and illegal consumption, which sounds like kind of not great. But if you think about it, it's probably really not that crazy. Like, she's the same age as me. I graduated in high school in 2009. So September 2010 would have been right when she started college and
Yeah.
probably went out and was drinking heavily because, people are excited to go to college.
Yep.
So the night of Lauren's disappearance was Friday, June 3rd, 2011. Hadar said that Lauren left their apartment around 12:30 a.m. Some reports say that Lauren's boyfriend Jesse decided to stay home and watch sports instead of going out with her that night, but other articles say that she told Jesse she was planning to stay in and go to bed, but then went out anyways. She went out with a neighbor named David Rohn. They went to the apartment of a friend named Jay Rosenbaum, and there Lauren met a man named Corey Rossman, who was Jay's neighbor. And Corey had a roommate named Mike Beth. So it probably seems like throwing a lot of names at you, but they're all important to the case as we go on. So we'll say reminders of who they are. So David, the friend that she'd left with, left the group at some point and went back to his apartment at the Smallwood complex. So 1:45 a.m., Corey and Lauren went to Kilroy's Sports Bar. The bar is still operational and seems like it has decent reviews. One says, "Legendary Sports Bar ranked one of the best college bars in America by numerous magazines and websites. They've had some big names in the atrium for concerts. The bar has multiple floors and plenty of space. Highly recommend Kilroy's Sports Bar." Since Lauren was underage, she used a fake ID to get into the bar. And at one point while they were at the bar, Lauren took off her shoes. They're said to be a sandy beach area of the bar, which I meant to look up pictures of because I'm very confused by this idea. But so that's why she removed her shoes.
I feel like here that would never fly. Like, they're so cautious here. It's like there's no way they would ever have in a bar a sandy bit where you could have glass and stuff like that.
I feel like that's weird here too. Like,
I don't know.
Maybe not. I don't know. Like, looking at pictures, it doesn't look like it's somewhere that sand would be, unless it was outside.
Yeah, or unless even maybe like they had some promotional thing going on at the time or something. I don't know.
Like an event.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just don't have it anymore. She and Corey left the bar at 2:27 a.m. Lauren left her shoes and her cell phone behind, and witnesses said that Lauren was visibly intoxicated. Corey walked with Lauren back to her apartment complex after they left the bar, and at 2:30 a.m., Lauren can be seen entering her complex. So the bar was very close if they left at
it all seems like
2:27.
it was all in a smallish
I guess because
area.
college
Yeah.
town. So at 2:30, Lauren can be seen entering her complex. A passerby named Zach Oakes noticed that Lauren seemed intoxicated and asked if she was okay. There's reports that at this time, Corey was involved in an altercation. Most articles don't really go into full detail about what happened, but this is a comment from Reddit. It says, he was reportedly involved in an altercation at the apartment building with a group of 4 IU students. One of the students confronted Corey after he noticed Lauren's level of inebriation. The student reportedly punched Corey several times, knocking him to the ground. When later questioned by investigators, Corey claimed to have no recollection of the night following the fight. Interesting.
Yeah, that's very handy.
Yeah.
The friend of a missing Indiana college student tells police he has memory loss from the night she disappeared. Lauren Spierer was last seen June 3rd after a night out with friends. Now a new report reveals 2 hours before she vanished, Spierer helped a male friend get home after he'd been in a scuffle. And that friend now claims he was punched in the face and has no memory of how the night ended. Well, meanwhile, police and Spierer's mother are pleading with the public to call in with any information they might have.
I think that we were all very hopeful that there would be that one nugget of information or that one phone call that would come in that would lead us to Lauren. And at this point, that phone call has not been received, but we are still encouraged.
In relationship to that, the person that knows this person that's not coming forward with the information, I beg you to come forward.
Private investigator Mike Ciravolo spoke about what happened during the altercation when Corey was confronted. He said they saw she was in bad shape to travel and they were trying to do the right thing. They suggested to Corey, hey, she's in bad shape. Why don't you just make sure she gets back to a room down the hall? And this is from ABC about the incident. Quote says, apparently they don't like the way he was handling Lauren, and Corey supposedly says something smart to him, and this guy decides to deck him, and Corey goes down.
It sounds like a lot of these kind of witnesses were thinking that maybe Lauren was really intoxicated and Corey was planning to take advantage of her when he should be leaving her alone because she wasn't able to, make proper decisions. So like that, I feel like is where this altercation stemmed from. People believed that he was being a sleazy creep to this girl who was intoxicated.
Yeah, which she probably was. Lauren reportedly helped Corey get back to his apartment after the altercation. So it's like she's helping him get back roles.
Yeah. I guess if he was punched multiple times in the head, like he would need some help, it seems.
Yeah, it just seems like if she was that intoxicated, she shouldn't be taking care of him now.
Yeah, no.
He lived in a complex called 5 North Townhomes, and it's believed that Lauren and Corey walked down an alley around 2:48. See, this all happened very quickly because they left the bar at 2:27. 2:48, and she was seen on CCTV at that time. Last footage of Lauren showed her exiting the alley around 2:51 a.m. Lauren's keys and purse would later be found on the route that she took through the alley. Lauren and Corey are said to have arrived at his apartment shortly after 2:51. Corey's roommate, Michael Beth, was there. Corey was said to be inebriated and he was struggling to walk. He vomited on the carpet on his way up the stairs. Michael said that he had to put Corey to bed. He said that he tried to persuade Lauren to sleep over for her own safety, but according to Michael, Lauren declined and said she wanted to go to her own home. Lauren still seemed to hang around for a bit, though, and at 3:30 a.m., Michael called up his neighbor, Jay, and asked him to take care of Lauren. Lauren had been trying to convince Michael to drink with her. He said that Lauren then went over to Jay's apartment. So Jay is where they started the night, right?
Yeah.
Her and her first friend went over to Jay's.
They've kind of come full circle in where they've been. Yeah, so she went with David first, who was her neighbor. People. They went to Jay's apartment, and that's where she met Corey, who she went out with, and now they're back with Jay.
Yeah. He said Lauren went to Jay's apartment. While she was there, Lauren used Jay's phone to call her neighbor, David, back to the original friend. Jay also made a call to try to find someone to give Lauren a ride home. Nobody answered these calls, and no messages were left. Jay said that Lauren had a bruise under her eye at this point, and it's believed she obtained it after she fell at a point earlier in the evening. Lauren told Jay that she didn't know how she got the bruise. Former FBI agent Brad Garrett spoke to ABC about this, said Jay sees what bad shape Lauren is in and says, Lauren, lay down on the couch, go to sleep, go home in the morning, and she won't do it. She says, I want to keep going, I want to go. Jay walks her to the door, and he sees her walk up 11th Street. Jay would say that Lauren left the apartment around 4:30 a.m., presumably to return to her own home. Jay is the last person to have seen Lauren, and when she left, she was barefoot, wearing black leggings and a white shirt. She's had no shoes this whole time. And just to give you a little bit more insight about Lauren, she was very petite. She was only 4'11" and weighed 95 pounds. Later on June 3rd, Jesse texted Lauren. Jesse is her boyfriend who didn't go out with her that night. He received a reply from her phone from someone at Kilroy's bar. This is where she had left her phone on the night out. And later that day, Jesse reported Lauren missing. Private investigator that is involved with this case said after Jesse reported her missing later that afternoon, Jesse was like, "She's dead. I know she's dead." Well, how do you know she's dead? So that's Jesse Wolf. So basically trying to say that he's suspicious, I guess.
Yeah.
Lauren's parents traveled to Indiana and arrived there on June 4th, and the search for Lauren started.
There is a tenor of distress in a mother's appeal. An IU student who seemingly vanished. The picture of the pretty co-ed now taped to age-old trees.
We're going to go up Hickory Ridge and do the same thing we did the last time.
Her father, Robert.
We'd like anyone who's seen her to please contact the Bloomington police immediately.
Dad and Mom flew in from New York Saturday, still stunned by the news. The search spans a massive expanse. They're searching here because they say they were told to. And police?
They're focusing their search in the city of Bloomington.
Lauren was likely out partying, last seen walking south on Bloomington's College Avenue from 11th, her apartment on 8th in College, just 3 blocks. Video shows she never arrived.
How long are you all planning to stay out here to search?
I don't know.
A long pause from Dad. As the echoes of Mom's plea bounce about the fort.
When police searched Lauren's room for clues, they found a small amount of cocaine. So that's how she was able to probably power through for hours drinking. Corey told police that Lauren had consumed alcohol, snorted cocaine, and had also taken and crushed up Klonopin tablets the night that she vanished. Her mother said, "I don't think I realized to what degree, when she was talking about Lauren's involvement in the party scene. She said that was a little bit of a shock." Hundreds of volunteers joined the search for Lauren. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children dispatched a rapid response team to Bloomington. Lauren's parents appeared on shows such as Good Morning America and CBS Morning News to raise awareness for her case. By June 9th, 2011, Lauren's family had established a $100,000 reward for her safe return. Police said at the time they were receiving many tips, but that they had no suspects. All 4 men who were known to have been with Lauren on the night she disappeared obtained lawyers, which can't really blame them, even though we try to say it's suspicious, but it's the right thing to do. On June 10th, 2011, police announced that they had 10 persons of interest. Corey and Mike were asked to submit DNA for the investigation. And a couple days later, on June 3rd, the search for Lauren had been scaled back from 3 per day to 2. But over 500 people were still coming out daily to search for her. The Indy Star reported that on June 14th, 2011, the 4 men were said to be persons of interest, as was her boyfriend, Jesse Wolf. According to News Nation, Jesse initially helped with the search for Lauren, but he left town fairly soon after she disappeared. Jesse said that he passed a privately administered lie detector test and he declined to take one administered by the police. I feel like there's no way he took a private, what would be the point in taking a privately administered one?
Yeah, I've read some things that Jesse comes from quite a wealthy family. Do you know what? We can discuss it more at the end, but I wouldn't be taking a lie detector test too. We know that they are generally, they're not admissible in court. They can be unreliable. I guess he could have had a privately administered one, especially if his family has some money to do that. But yeah, I feel like
it's why even bring it up? What's the point of saying you took a private one? Just be like, no. And it's true. Even though in any true crime story, they try to be like, oh, he wouldn't take a lie detector test. But any cop or attorney I've spoken to has straight up said, never take a lie detector test.
Yeah. I feel like that's, 101. Get a lawyer. Don't take your lie detector test. No matter what.
Yeah. But in the true crime world, we're like, suspicious. So I try to be better about that. No witnesses reported seeing Jesse out on the town that night, and he told authorities that he watched the NBA finals that ended around midnight and he went to bed at 2:30. Lauren's friends described him at the time as the most loving boyfriend and said he couldn't have harmed Lauren. Her mother said at the time, "I start my every day hoping that today is the day. I go to sleep every night knowing that I have failed and that I haven't done enough." By June 21st, the search really started to wind down. Only 50 people searched for Lauren that day. Some neighbors of those involved spoke to WXIN and said that they had not been questioned by police. On June 27, 2011, Corey's attorneys released a statement saying that he had cooperated with police and passed a polygraph test. Corey said to reporters in 2011, "I was not the last person with her, and that's all I can say. I'm sorry." But then he added, "But I just hope they find her as soon as possible, and I'm praying for her and her family."
So during the investigation, police spotted a white truck on CCTV not far from where she was last seen. There's actually like photos online of this car. It's kind of just a nondescript white truck. A Bloomington police official said at the time, "Is there a possibility that this vehicle could be involved?" Absolutely. So they started looking into who owned the vehicle. In August 2011, police conducted a 9-day search of landfill in the area looking for clues. So the area they searched was where all the Bloomington rubbish was taken. The Bloomington PD, the Indiana University PT, and the FBI all took part in the search.
Abby, officials are searching the Sycamore Ridge landfill for any clues in the Lauren Spierer case. Police say trash from Bloomington comes here to the Vigo County landfill, and that's why law enforcement has been searching just behind this hill since about 7 a.m. Now, the search area is off limits to the media, but I can tell you, just behind that hill, there's a large tent set up, as well as people in protective suits searching through the trash, and a mobile crime lab unit of some sort set up. Now, there's also security around the landfill perimeter. Now, as for any findings, no word yet on that, but it could take a while. The search effort could take up to 2 weeks.
On August 17, 2011, Robert and Charlene left Bloomington to go back to New York because it was their other daughter Rebecca's 25th birthday. So they'd been there for 6 weeks by that point. In September that year, Charlene read an open letter to whoever was involved in Lauren's disappearance. She said, "You are guilty of a heinous crime," and she described what it was like to get a phone call from her husband about Lauren's disappearance. She said, "We will never give up." In late 2011, the family were asked by the media if they thought Lauren was alive, and Robert said, "We don't know," but Charlene said, "We hope she is, but I think the odds are against us." So by May 2013, which was almost 2 years after Lauren disappeared, investigators had received 3,060 tips in the case, and 100 of those tips were received in 2013. So it seems like, basically 3,000 tips were received in the first 18 months of the case. In April 2015, the Bloomington PD announced they were looking into a possible link between Lauren's case and the murder of an Indiana University student, Hannah Wilson. Hannah went missing on April 24th, 2015 after leaving Kilroy's, which is the same bar that Lauren was at on the night that she vanished. The Bloomington Police Captain Joe Qualters told the media, "We are exploring the possibility of a connection." Hannah had been told that she was too intoxicated to enter the bar. Her friends put her in a taxi and paid the fare for her to get home, and she was last seen driving away in the cab. Her body was found the following day. Hannah died from blunt force trauma to the head. Thankfully, her murderer did the least, and his cell phone was found at the scene where her body was found, and a man named Daniel Messel was arrested for her murder. In July 2015, police said that the two cases were unrelated and any similarities were just coincidental. In January 2016, the FBI investigated a property in Martinsville based on a tip, and that property is around 20 miles from Bloomington. Law enforcement issued a statement about the raid, and they said on today's date, the Bloomington Police Department was assisted by the FBI at a location in Morgan County as part of the active and ongoing investigation into the disappearance of Lauren Spierer. No other information will be released other than this confirmation that the Bloomington PD was the agency involved in Morgan County, as previously reported by various media outlets. And then it went on to say, sources said the police and FBI raided a home, and that was based on a lead regarding Lauren. The property was connected to a man named Justin Wages. Justin lived there with his mother and his stepfather. Justin is a registered sex offender. He had previously been booked and charged with indecent exposure and bond forfeiture. His previous charges included a Class 6 felony charge of performing sexual misconduct in the presence of a minor, including touching or fondling oneself, and both charges occurred on December 15th, 2015. So after Lauren disappeared, but it was before the raid as well. In 2005, he was also sentenced to 3 years for a Class D felony of vicarious sexual gratification with a child, which Indiana defines as knowingly or intentionally directing, aiding, inducing, or causing a child to touch or fondle himself or herself or another child. So he's an all-round creep who this has been going on for over a decade. Just seems like a nasty person.
Yeah.
Investigators searched the property with cadaver dogs, which indicated potential evidence. Anthropologists conducted a dig and sifted dirt from the barn where the dogs hid, but they found nothing. Investigators also towed from the property a white truck belonging to the Wages. Justin's attorney, Chris Eskew, released a statement and said Mr. Wages has no knowledge regarding the disappearance of Lauren or any other missing person. In 2016, the agent that we mentioned earlier, former FBI agent Brad Garrett, spoke to ABC about the white truck that was seen on CCTV. He went on to say, did the driver happen to be driving down the street, saw her at this intersection and immediately pull over because that's what he's looking for? Talks her into the vehicle, and that could have taken 10 seconds. At that point, he's got her and he takes her to wherever. So this is 5 years after she went missing. They still were looking into this white vehicle and the possibility that it was involved in the crime. Brad said that he uncovered that a man named James McLeish was just released from prison for assaulting his ex-wife at the same time that Lauren disappeared, and he drove a similar white truck. He was living at a halfway house around 10 minutes from where Lauren disappeared. Brad said a woman from James's Pass reached out to him and said, you need to check him out. He made some comments like, you know what happened to Lauren? That could happen to you. The woman alleged James had killed Lauren and had buried her on a farm in southern Indiana. Brad got James to take a lie detector test in 2016. He repeatedly denied having anything to do with Lauren's disappearance, and according to the test, he was telling the truth. Obviously, the search for Lauren went on. Her family have got a website for her that's still active to this day. They've got a Facebook page where they've been posting lots of updates. But essentially, once a disappearance reaches a certain point, your resources become more limited. You have to scale back the search. You can only search on tips. I'm sure that there was other things, like when you look on the timeline of this case, there were Jane Does that were found over the years. Basically, nothing panned out. Lauren hasn't been found as of November 2024. So all of the tips they followed up over that time led them to nothing. In 2023, the PI that we mentioned earlier, PI Sarovalo, would say that he'd only been able to speak with Jesse, who was Lauren's boyfriend, once in the investigation. He was hired by the family in September 2011, so that's a 12-year time frame. He went on to say he lets his father run interference for him. I would uncover some information, and then I would get a call from Alan, who's Jesse's father, saying, where are you going with this? What are you doing? Could you tell me what is going on? He also said that he had spoken with other men who had been with Lauren that night, except for Corey. Corey called the police on the private investigator when he went to his apartment to try to question him. News Nation reached out to all the men in 2023 for comment, and Michael Beth was the only one who responded, and he said he had nothing to add. So he was the one who he called for help, the neighbor to come and help, because basically Lauren wouldn't leave his apartment.
He's Corey's roommate.
Yeah. The PI have said that the police have been resistant with working with him and the family. The PI said, we were told in no uncertain terms by the police chief that he would not be interested in having help. He would certainly not be willing to share any information with us, and he was also reluctant to accept any information that we had to offer to him, which is crazy to me. I understand the police not sharing information, but surely be willing to take the information would be helpful to the investigation, you would think.
Mm-hmm.
2023 marked 12 years since Lauren had vanished, and her mother made this statement. She said, 12 years you've kept your secret. 12 years we have continued our search. I write today as a reminder that we will never stop. The police also made a statement late last year, 2023, and said that the investigation remains very active, and over the last 3 to 4 years, investigators have received over 800 tips and executed at least 10 search warrants. So I guess 4 years, 800 tips, that's around 200 tips a year. It's still quite a lot. Like that's 4 a week. I'm obviously just averaging up, but that's still, I would still say that's fairly active for such an old case.
Yeah, definitely.
So Lauren's parents did file civil lawsuits against Corey, Jay, and Michael for their involvement with Lauren leading up to her disappearance. The suits alleged them of negligence and alleged that they gave Lauren alcohol after they said she was already visibly intoxicated. They were also alleged to have neglected to get her safely to her apartment, which likely led to her death. The family stated that they hoped the lawsuit would lead to the men admitting more information about what occurred that night. And Charlene said, I truly don't think it was a random abduction. I think that somebody Lauren knew was responsible for the events of that evening. The suit against Michael was dismissed by Judge Tanya Walton Pratt in 2013, saying that he had no duty of care for Lauren. And the same judge dismissed the suit against the other 2 men the next year in 2014. The judge said there could be any number of theories as to what happened to Lauren and what, if any, injuries she may have sustained. Without evidence to prove these theories, it would be impossible for a jury to determine if whatever happened to her was a natural and probable consequence of her intoxication without any other intervening acts that would break the causal chain. So Lauren's parents did appeal the decision, but it was upheld by the Federal Appeals Court in 2015. So basically their suits against all of the men were unsuccessful.
Which sounds shitty, but, I kind of agree. There's just, not enough information to really blame any of them for anything, because
No.
they said they tried to get her to stay. She was very intoxicated. She didn't wanna stay. She left on her own. They can't hold her prisoner.
No, and obviously, I don't want to appear victim blaming, but she went out with Corey that night of her own free will. She took whatever she did. He was just as inebriated as her. He vomited going up the stairs. He didn't even have a duty of care for himself. He was unable to care for himself. So I can, as a parent, I can absolutely agree that someone should have helped her. But, when it comes down to it, it was her own free will and she did those things because she wanted to. All right, so in terms of theories about what has happened to Lauren, the PI has said that he believes there are 3 things that could have happened. One possibility is an opportunistic attack from someone who took advantage of her inebriation. Another is that her boyfriend Jesse had something to do with it out of jealousy, she went out that night with all these men, maybe Jesse found out and he was jealous. The third one, which I think is interesting, is that Lauren was, I don't want to say reportedly, but she did. Lauren suffered from a heart condition. He said Lauren, who had a bad heart and may have been overserved that night, could have passed. Her heart could have given out while she was in their apartment, in Rosenbaum's apartment, and that they concealed her body. So the heart condition she had was called long QT syndrome, which can cause dangerous heart arrhythmias and in some cases may lead to cardiac arrest. So I feel like absolutely that's a very, very plausible scenario, that whatever she was taking, and we know that she'd taken Klonopin. I was actually speaking with someone on Instagram today about this case. There's a book that I tried to order called College Girl Missing, the true story of how a young woman disappeared in plain sight, but Amazon just wouldn't send it to me. I waited for months and it never arrived. But the person on Instagram, Lauren, was telling me about the things in the book that are different to what we know. And she said, I'll just read out some of this. She said, the interesting part in the book is I didn't realize how serious her heart condition was. I thought it was just a general heart condition, but it's so serious that she had doctors tell her she could never play any sports. So, if it's that serious and she's still doing drugs, there was cocaine in her room. We know that she took the Klonopin.
I was going to say, she's doing cocaine.
Absolutely. I feel like it could be a very plausible scenario that something happened and they're covering it up. Lauren's parents have said that based on her level of intoxication at the bar, they feel that she could have been drugged. Her father said, we feel somebody could have slipped something into her drink. So Jesse Wolf's mother has spoken to the media and she has insinuated that Lauren did have a big drug problem. She said that Lauren had actually been asked to leave the summer camp where they were. We mentioned earlier that she met Jesse and all these friends at the summer camp. Jesse's mother is insinuating that Lauren was asked to leave the summer camp because of drug use. And she said, this poor little girl is not with us today because of her drug abuse. The same person who I just mentioned about the Instagram message was saying that in the book that the College Girl Missing, sorry, I'm just finding it. She said that before Lauren went to university, she actually went to rehab. This is all according to the book, College Girl Missing. She went to rehab for drug and alcohol abuse. Her friends went to Lauren's parents when she was 17, and they said something along the lines of, we think she might have a problem. And the parents agreed that she could go to Indiana University if she agreed to go to inpatient rehab the summer before. So I find it quite interesting that her parents, apparently, according to this book, sent her to rehab, but then her mother said that she was still quite shocked that they found cocaine in her room and the extent that Lauren was apparently partying. I guess maybe they thought that after the rehab, she had stopped that, but it's just kind of an interesting contradiction based on what they knew and how Lauren was still acting at the time.
Yeah. I don't doubt that she was drinking and doing drugs, maybe doing more drugs than people would have assumed. And I guess the heart thing could have been a thing. I don't know why, just my gut or my intuition is telling me that guys, for the most part, are probably telling the truth. And I feel like something happened to her after she left. But that's literally just my own thought of reading this story. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I feel like for me personally, it seems to be pretty cut and dried that maybe one of the men, I guess maybe Jesse did something to Lauren. They would all have had their motivations. It seems like the
Yeah,
most
like
obvious thing in this case is what happened. But one thing that gets brought up a lot in this case, which, and this is the kind of thing when I hear about this, I'm like, no way, this is so ridiculous. But I actually feel like this could maybe be a little bit plausible. But one thing that is spoken about in terms of Lauren's case is that perhaps she was a victim of Israel Keyes, the serial killer. Israel Keyes is a pretty notorious serial killer. He murdered at least 3 people, but they are thinking that he probably murdered a lot more and that basically they just haven't been found or attributed to him. One of his, I guess, characteristics was that he used to bury kill kits around the country. So he would put in those kits, guns, knives, bindings, whatever things he thought he would need to kill someone. And he would bury them around the country. So when he was ready to commit a crime, he would go and find one and dig it up and then carry out the murder. It is known that in 2007, which obviously is years before Lauren disappeared, but in 2007, he flew from his home in Alaska to Seattle where he got a gun from his friend. He then traveled to Indiana to visit his mother, which is where she lived. On December 8th that year, he rented a car and essentially vanished for several days. The car's odometer showed that he had driven around 537 miles in 2 days. His mother is said to have lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne to Bloomington, which is where Lauren vanished, return would have been around 400 miles. So it's thought that he maybe spent the remaining miles driving around and burying this kill kit in a forest near the area. So, it does seem a little bit far-fetched at that point. The time in 2007, it's many years before. But we know that in 2011, on June 2, he flew into Chicago and that he rented a car. He had been planning to go to his mother's house in Indiana, which was a 3-hour drive away from the airport, but he did not arrive there until the next day. We know that Israel Keyes killed people of different characteristics and races and things like that, but he apparently admitted to having a preference for petite and intoxicated or inebriated women, like people who would be easier for him to control.
yeah.
According to some reports, when he was questioned about Lauren's disappearance, his reaction was similar to a case where he was confirmed to have murdered someone. There is a book that's been written about Israel Keyes called American Predator, and it was known that when he was committing a murder, his phone would go dark at the time, and it apparently did so at the time that Lauren vanished. So, I don't know, some interesting points. Like the police have never really confirmed that they're considering the Israel Keyes as a proper or probable theory in Lauren's case. But when you dig into it, there does seem to be some merit to this at least being, a pretty plausible theory.
Yeah, normally it's something where I'd be like, absolutely not, but it does seem like it could be a possibility. I don't know. Because it does seem like the most likely theory should be that one of the guys she was with did something to her. But if they have records of them, like, actually calling and trying to get rid of her and trying to give her rides, it seems like they maybe cared about her, unless you said, like, it was an accident, but then I'm always, like, her heart or whatever. But then I'm like, well, why wouldn't they just call for help? But I don't know.
There
They
is an
could be
interesting
hiding drugs.
comment I found on Reddit about the Israel Keyes thing, and I couldn't find a source for it, but it says the FBI have a cell phone ping from an Alaskan number within 2 square miles of where Lauren was last seen within the 40-minute window of when she most likely disappeared. There was also an Alaskan phone number that pinged near some murders that Israel Keyes carried out after Lauren disappeared, and it says the mystery here is if it's the same number. So I'm assuming to police it isn't a mystery. They would probably know that, but
True.
you would hope they would know that. But if that is true, as I said, I couldn't find a source. That's very interesting. Like, I feel like there's probably not many Alaskan phone numbers pinging in Bloomington, Indiana at the same time that Lauren disappeared. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Israel Keys thing could definitely be a possibility.
Yeah. And we did
But
ask
just
on
like,
Instagram today, and a whole bunch of people, like I said, what did you think happened in this case? And a whole bunch of people do believe that the Israel Keyes theory is very possible.
yeah, it's just after 4 a.m. or whatever time she allegedly walked away from the apartment, literally anything could have happened to her. And I feel like the people who are out at 4 a.m. in a college town are either people up to no good, other people super intoxicated, mainly just like trouble.
Yeah.
She could have just ran into anyone, even just another guy who isn't a serial killer that maybe saw her. She is a cute, small, blonde girl. She's clearly intoxicated. Maybe someone tried to take advantage of her. Maybe she was attacked or someone tried to sexually assault her. Maybe then something happened with her heart, It just
Yeah.
whatever happened after 4 AM, there's really no direction, it seems.
I feel like the thing I lean most towards is that there was only one person involved or one person that knows, because I feel like if all of these men
Mhm.
or even two or three of these men knew, and like I feel like surely they all weren't involved in the murder. Like, just say, for example, something happened at one of their houses and they're like, we need to hide the body. Surely by now some of them would have talked after, being under scrutiny for nearly 15 years. I just feel like I just am shocked that if more people know, out of these four men, that no one else has talked about it. But I
Yeah.
guess, I don't know. I guess maybe it's just all in their best interest not to. My least likely scenario in this case is that Jesse did something to Lauren. Like, it still is a
Yeah.
possibility. People have said that he seems shady because his parents basically swooped in and took him out of town right after she disappeared. If that was my kid, I would absolutely probably do the same. I'd be like, you need to get out of here.
I was just thinking that too.
You're going to be insinuated in this situation. You know, I like, for me, him being involved is probably the least likely. And then I would say, I do believe, I don't know. Like, now that I know about this Israel Keys theory, that is up there for me, but I do feel like it's probably the most likely scenario is that something happened and one of the four men know what happened to her.
Yeah. I agree about Jesse, like, people could be suspicious of him, like, maybe her friend said he was nice. He
Yeah.
could just because someone comes off as, like, a jerk doesn't mean they're guilty, as we've learned over the years, but, yeah, I don't think it's weird that his parents, like, swooped him away, especially if they have the means to. One, I'm sure it's very stressful and upsetting if your girlfriend disappears and goes missing, and then when it becomes a high-profile case, everybody's gonna be looking at you.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think that's, like, really as shady as it's made out to be either. Yeah,
Just thinking something else.
I don't know. I really don't even all of the theories you said, if any of them were true, I wouldn't be shocked, but that's also, like, I don't feel super strongly about any one particular either.
Like the majority of comments on our Insta post are, the friends know something. It was the frat boy friends. I believe she OD'd and they panicked. Israel Keys is the other one. But yeah, someone said they believe that she was thrown in a dumpster, buried in concrete, or taken and thrown in the woods. So that's a lot of scenarios with that one.
Mm.
I feel like this is the second case in a row where I haven't really had a strong feeling. Obviously, I think she is deceased. I feel like all of the theories that we've discussed could absolutely have happened.
Yeah. It's hard to say that knowing more about the guys, I guess, and maybe that's why I don't feel too strongly about it, because I know it does happen, but to me, I'm like, are you really kind of like what you were saying? Are you really gonna find 4 guys, or maybe if they
Yeah.
weren't all there, that we're all okay with if she accidentally overdosed in their apartment, hiding her body somewhere and not feeling guilty about it
And
eventually, or
the other thing is too, like, I know that Corey and Michael were roommates, but then, like, how close were they to the other guys? Would you really screw
yeah,
up
like, were they
15, like,
good
all these years of
friends?
your life to protect one of them? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I think about too.
Hmm. But yeah, there haven't really, I'll just double check, there haven't really been any really big updates. As I mentioned, her family do have a Facebook page. They do post updates still, but the updates are basically along the lines of they're not giving up hope. They're still looking for Lauren. Every year on the anniversary, there is, some renewed media attention. There is the book, which people have said is great, so I would really love to read it one day if Amazon ever sent it to me. It's called College Girl Missing: The True Story of How a Young Woman Disappeared in
There's
Plain
not, like, a
Sight.
digital version
I
of
don't know.
it?
I could do that. I just prefer paperback or hardcover. But yeah,
Oh,
I could do
excuse
that.
me.
But the person, when I was speaking, they said the main things in the book, the differences are that they learned she went to rehab. And what was the other thing I said? About how bad her heart condition was. So they said
Yeah.
essentially there's not much else. The author of the book does insinuate that it's one of the men. It's either the boyfriend or one of the men that knows more about what happened. So I guess the rest just goes through the more detailed timeline of what happened, the night she'd vanished and things like that.
There's even a chance, not to be like, let me throw out more theories as we're wrapping up. Like, she was so intoxicated, allegedly, not wearing shoes. She could have, like, just wandered off and died of like misadventure or something like that where, yeah, it seems like they would have found her, but we've heard stories before where that's happened and they haven't been able to find their body for years. Or if she got hit by a car or something,
Yep.
those people could have then taken her and dumped her body, and most people would never even know, obviously. It's like you really just don't know.
Oh, yeah. So there's a case, and this is like, I know it's not the same because it happened in Spain, but basically there was a case where a woman is now missing because she went out on a night home and they think that she basically was inebriated and got into a bin to sleep, and then the bin was collected and she was crushed to death. So,
Oh, wow.
that is, and that
Yeah, like
that doesn't,
literally anything.
yeah, that doesn't happen a lot. I know there's been a few cases where things like that happen, where people go to seek shelter and for some reason something happens. Like it could be something along those lines, like some type of misadventure situation. I just feel like with
Yeah.
the inebriation of Lauren and the guy, Corey, at least there could be a number of things that happened to her.
Yeah. Hopefully one day they find something because it doesn't seem very promising, but you never know. All right, so that's really it for this episode. Would love to know what your theories are about this. So let us know on Instagram or wherever when we post about it, what you guys think. Oh, or on Spotify comments if you want to be nice to us and say what you think about the case and be like, P.S. Love this podcast. That'd be
Yeah.
great. But everything will be on the blog as usual at truecrimesocietyblog.com. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you should follow us on Instagram on True Crime Society. That's where we post all updates all day on our stories for current cases or when we're following cases. So if you want to stay up to date, check us out there. And if you want to follow our personal accounts and see what we're up to, mine is StephSum_. Olivia's TCS Olivia. Check us out on Patreon. We do all the episodes ad-free. We do weekly bonus episodes, and we have some chats on Patreon. So all of that is great. If you want to see some more content, like we just recorded, we've been doing the Delphi trial, so the Patreon episode has been very long. The one we just did was an hour, so
Get your money's
get an
worth.
extra episode every week. And we have like a chat on the Delphi trial. So, I mean, whenever there's big cases, we can make special chats for the people who are following it and want to be able to talk about it with other people. Because sometimes we don't all have people in our life that just want to talk about the Delphi trial. So at least we have each other. That's really it. If you guys share the podcast with your friends or on your Instagram stories, anything like that, it's a big help to us. Make sure you're following on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. And leave us nice comments, nice reviews. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe. Peace out.